need to work to make sure that I can pay this.
Yes.
If I pay this, eventually I will grow. And he worked. And he left the comfort of establishment and went into the risk of energy and business. But you could just sense that he was not gambling. He knew what he was doing. He was a man on a mission and a man on a journey. And he was also a great listener. He would listen, and he would, and he still is a great listener and a magnificent lawyer, a courtroom Rottweiler. Many lawyers, I don't want to mention their names, people like, I don't want to mention their names, but we saw people starting there. People like Bruce Muzinguzi, for example, we saw them there at their young ages, learning work ethic in a way that is absolutely incredible. And he was just relentless. Every instruction, he began taking instructions from this town like you have no idea, because I don't think he had a life. I think he lived in that office, was born in it in the morning, and I don't know what happened at night, but he was just working his legs off. And so his success over the years has certainly been no accident. He's a man whose career has been defined by consistency, by judgment, by mentorship, by encouragement. I remember even in his farm, when you talk to the lawyers there, they used to begin their meetings, I think at 5:30 or 6. They had this 6 o'clock meeting.
Yes, meant to be, you have to be there by 5.
You have to be there by 5:30 because you need to settle in, and then they have this 6 o'clock meeting to plan the day. So today, colleagues, we have a person who over the years has handled all the big cases in this country, whose law firm is known globally. It started off then, it is now a global, not a national brand, it is a global brand, whose own brand is an absolute global brand, who is an institutionalist at his very core, who has believed in building. Yes, he does insolvency, so he knows how to break, but he has also been a builder of things that last. And so he's a person who has shaped the space around him, and we've been receiving so many requests from so many lawyers to have Mr. Kabito Karamaji on the conversation. He's someone who has dealt with big insolvencies, big banking matters, big litigation, big everything. And so we used to call him Kabi, but now we shall stick to the professional the professional method of communication. Mr. Karamaji, sir, you are most welcome to the Judicial Service Conversation, sir.
Thank you very much, Ellison. Pleasure to be here, and congratulations on starting such a wonderful platform. Congratulations, because I have heard you have about 50,000 in number. That's big. Congratulations.
So if you've just joined us, you've heard that we are the largest legal platform on the continent of Africa, and maybe the second or third largest in the globe, only behind LexisNexis and Thomson Reuters. And even them, it's because they have a lot of money. But anyhow, what we usually do here is we start the conversation with a question. And the question is, who are you? So what people want to know is, who is Kabito Karamaji? What makes him tick? What makes his heart beat faster? What makes his blood boil? If people were to sum up the man himself, what would they say about this man called Kabito?
First, allow me to make a small correction. Ligomac was actually started in 2003. Ligomac was started in 2003. My partner, now Ruth Sevatindira, I worked with her at Kalenge Bwanika. She left and started it, and I joined about a year later. So there is a misconception, although I was pretty much involved in who am I? What makes me tick? That's a very, for us who are somehow kind of coy about what we do is a bit hard. What makes us tick? I think for me, how I like to define myself, I think I was born and raised by teachers. So I'm a son of 2 teachers, classroom teachers. And so if you're raised by teachers, you kind of understand the issues of discipline and being fairly structured. And that's what my parents were. I also grew up in at Makerere, so that also meant that even the neighbors were teachers, people very structured in life, expertise of all manner, and so that is how I grew up. Our parents, our home was a very political home, a political environment, lots of debates. So I learned stuff about justice and injustice fairly early. As teachers, our parents were also community workers, so I learned, the importance of playing your role in the community, seeing other people grow. I was the unintended recipient of a lot of counsel that was meant for other older students, my parents' students. So I sat in there and listened to them. So so that is probably what makes me think that whatever I learned from two teachers and a community of teachers. Yeah, that's me.
From a community of teachers. I think when you talk about teachers, we're hearing Makerere. I don't think that these were just your ordinary teachers. These were like guys who are teaching real guys.
This is true. And the other day I was telling someone who's just joined my office about her grandfather. And my memory of him, one of the earliest memories, going to his office. And he was a professor of entomology. And so his offices, those offices that are at the back of a lab. Yeah, so I went, did my business, and then I walked around, and his lab had all manner of insects. And so I kept looking at that, and it's scientific names, and and I didn't know that he was waiting for me. He had to go, but he was waiting for me. So I looked around, and when I was done, I went to him and then said, "Are you impressed? What have you learned?" But I couldn't remember the names. Oh man, of these cockroaches and white ants, and then there were pests and the diseases they spread and the uses. Thinking, whoa, no wonder you have this sort of office. No books, but all manner of insects, all dried up and patched on the wall. So. Yeah, that's why. And when I say I grew up with teachers and took instructions from teachers, that is how it was. I learned about the library fairly early. I was a sickly child when I was growing up. I was very asthmatic, so I couldn't play much. Of course, I did play. I was naughty, but I didn't play that much. So I learned, my escape in an era when TV was rationed was to read books. So I read. By probably about the age of 13, I had read the Bible cover to cover, and I did it again and again. I read all the books of the way. I read my father's books, and I, noticed, earlier. So I was very informed very early about history of the world, history of Africa, the United Nations. Remember the United Nations Charter being flung at me. So reciting the history of the Uganda National Congress and Uganda People's Union to make UPC. So we learned those things. I learned those things very early, and you couldn't escape them when you are in our home. Yeah.
Alfred may never have heard of the Uganda National Union. The Uganda People's Union and the Uganda National Congress and Ignatius Kanga Vemusazi. He's even looking at me in shock.
There are other names like Elidadi Mulira. You know, just people think, like, oh, were you related to them? No, I just read about that. I never even met the guy.
So, you have this whole history of knowledge. You are born in a knowledge industry.
Yeah.
You grow up, you become an advocate of the courts of judicature. I think people need to know how you got into the journey to the law, and then you have briefly touched on the story of Legomark. Certainly didn't emerge by accident, and so what was the idea behind Legomark, and what, as you were building that practice, what did you realize you needed to do to turn it from being any farm into becoming an incredible farm? What was the inspiration? So the inspiration for you to become a lawyer, and then the inspiration for you not just to form a law firm, but to form a law firm that later becomes an institution that grows. It's one of the few firms in the country that actually recruits its partners from within. People have grown through the ranks.
Yeah.
It's not a very common thing in
Yes.
Ugandan businesses.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, so how do I become a lawyer? Because I grew up with all these books around me, I naturally became very vocal. I mean, all these debates as well. So the merits and the merits of federal, you know, I went and spoke about it with authority in school because I had heard someone speak about it. And then slowly you know, the opinion started forming that I'd either be a lawyer or a politician. And those two sounded very cool. So throughout primary school, I kind of saw myself as a lawyer. But then in secondary school, two things happened. Because I was also a good writer, I wrote all the love letters in school. And the English composition. So when you just gave me something, as soon as I saw her,
I didn't want to say.
so it just came for me naturally. As soon as I saw her, I just, you know, continue with the sentence and finish a good story. So I started thinking of becoming a journalist at that point, and I had dreams of starting up my own newspaper and things like that. But then I think there was a bit of a rebellious stick that I took over, so I started flirting with the idea of becoming a soldier. And by that time, my dad had become a professor. Yeah, he had become a full professor, and I'm thinking, so what's the chance of me being better than this guy? Of me becoming a lecturer, a professor, and why should I be equal to him? I have to be better than him. But what's the real chance of becoming a vice chancellor? That's what I thought the best was. And that chance looked a bit slim. So I said, hey, I need to do something that's completely unrelated to it. I think even if I died as sergeant, you know, people salute me, I have a gun, I'm better than him. So and slowly I you know, faded into that, and by the time I was doing as far as I was thinking, I'm just joining the army, I'm just doing this is not anything serious in my exams. And by the time I was doing, you know, I was kind of convinced to go to HSC because I wanted to go to join the army. And then the university came and I what do you want to do? I said, well, I want to join the army. He said, no, you have better chances with a university degree. But then I said, I want to be a lawyer. At that time, also, I'd taken on a Rastafarian lifestyle. So dreadlocks. Yeah, no. I was serious.
The hair went to the edge.
So, and I just said, I can't be a lawyer as a Rasta. I'm better off, maybe let me study journalism. But then I wasn't admitted for journalism because I failed GP. I also hadn't done very well in history. And so it looked like the only option available to me was law. And I remember getting my admission letter quite with a sense of resignation. Okay, this is what it is. And I did not quickly embrace it. And in the whole of my first year, I kind of retained that lifestyle. Second year, you know, Rasta. You know, and you know, I changed later. I accepted it later, and you know, I took the course seriously. maybe I wasn't too serious if some interventions hadn't been made. I told you I grew up with the neighborhood of teachers. So one of my teachers was in Tambiruki. So and he was a neighbor. So one day he phoned me and said, "But I haven't seen you in class," which was true. I hadn't been going to class. He said, "Now, I want to see you in my office every day at 4 p.m. to tell me what you had read." And he says, "But have you got one case or two to go and account her, Now I was reading Khalil Smoke Ball, Consideration, and when the results came out, I'd done well. I'd done very well. And that was the story right through. I got to LDC.
And you still want to be a soldier?
And at that time, yes. I want to be a soldier. Just very sure that I'm going to join. But something also happened in my second year. I think that was a turning point. I met a good friend, Moses Segawa. Moses Segawa is a nephew to a man called Chris Bwanika, who you know. Yes. And so that time I'm thinking, if I don't join the army, maybe what I would want to do really is litigate. I have to be a lawyer. So and then I met Chris Bwanika. I started hanging around the farm, and I said, maybe this is where I should work. This is where I want to work. I want to be like this guy. So now that was second year. So third year, fourth year, LDC, opportunity to work. I said, but there's only one place I can work. At that time, my dad is thinking of other places, his friends, his professor friends, and thinking, there's someone I think I need to go to. So I did my internship, my clerkship there, excelled. I was called. But before all that, when we did our final exams, I had a friend who is now dead, unfortunately, John Baguma, lieutenant at the time. But by the time I was going to bed, it was clear, I'm not being a lawyer. I'm not going to join in the army. I'll just go.
You're not going to manage the saluting business.
Let me tell you, but I also have to tell you what I was hoping to do. I told you I grew up in political environment, and it was really opposition politics. And I think my father was some kind of political strategist in his own right, because there are some things he would, kind of predict and they would come to pass. This is next. And for me, my father said, but you guys just sit here and talk. Then let's go and shoot this guy out of there. So one of the things I think, maybe join the army and just,
do a coup.
Take over this thing. So these are some things I was flirting with. So you have no idea. I might have been the one, my son would have been an MK or something.
You would have been the proper legal rebel.
But I see all those things just didn't come to pass. I entered the law school, finished, joined Kalenge Bwanika as a clerkship student. I was called back, and I threw my energies into this. I met Ruth. Kalenge Bwanika was a firm well ahead of its time.
Yes.
3 great men, big hats. At their level, you have to understand that the law firm generally has gone through an evolution. Today's law firm is significantly capitalized. Law firms have fixed assets, they have computers. The law firms at the time, a significant number, were really 2 rooms, maybe 3, with a bench and a computer and a secretary. So you guys all sit somewhere together, and maybe in the kitchen, that sort of thing. But there was a move, they were beginning to capitalize. So Kalenge is one of those that had done that ahead of many others. So in time, I had a computer around. You can't believe that's a big thing at the time. Having your own extension, and you can actually dial other people didn't have. And but also importantly, the training and the work ethic was very good. Exposure was good. So that's now how I really become a lawyer. And in time, I thought I would stay there and become partner. Now that is again being ahead of my time, because there were not many firms. If you felt you'd grow, you're big enough, you pack and go. That was it. There was no chance. There was no record of people being admitted. In fact, the structure was a law firm, partners, legal assistant. However senior you are, you're a legal assistant. Where there were sole proprietorship, you'd see the word owner. So the institutionalization of the firm was just not there. And but I was thinking I had a chance. I could join these guys at the main table. And the energies and reviews were good. But at some time, at a point, I just felt, look, the firm was slowing down. And I thought we were losing direction. And so I kept having words with the partners. I said, well, so what are we working for? Where are we going? And, that question wasn't come through. But for poor guys, again, you have law firms doing sessions, retreats, and what have you. That wasn't the thing then. But for them, I'm sure they were thinking, what do you mean where we're going? We're going to be here, clients come to us, But my sense was that the industry was changing. And well, they probably were comfortable. They didn't see it that way. And also at that time, Ruth and I were heralded as the future. You two are the future of this firm. But then one day Ruth comes and says she's resigned. She's going to join Deloitte as tax manager. Of course, she had a good package. But knowing Ruth, I knew, Ruth doesn't want to go. I hope these guys can make an offer. They did see it. And they let her go. And I thought to myself, why are they letting half the future go? Why? How can you miss this? And I went to one of the bosses. I said, can we sit down? Can we have a sit down and know what we're doing? What are we working for? Can we have a sort of retreat? Now, at Makerere, I was a member of ISEC. If you know what ISEC is, it's one of the best things that ever happened to me. I joined it for all the wrong reasons, but there was a lot of drinking, a lot of partying. But I learned, the whole idea of having a personal mission, know what you're working, that sort of thing, communication skills and that. So I just felt like these guys, maybe they know something together, but they're not passing it down for the organization to follow. So, and then one of the bosses said, can you write me a concept note? Now, again, I was not being fair to the guy. I should have. But I just felt like I was being brushed off. In all honesty, I don't think he knew. So that day I said, I think it's time to leave. And so there were many people hitting on me, there was, many people hitting, can we start up, But then Ruth calls and says, I'm resigning. This is only 6 months later. I'm resigning. So what? Yeah. I'm starting my own legal mark and so on. And, I said, you're kidding me. The next kind of discovery, she sets up. Yeah, I was there. And she says, yeah, why don't you join? I was like, whoa. Now the hard part was to leave people that I deeply, deeply respected. People that had shaped me entirely.
So it changed you from being a Rasta man.
I'd left that a little earlier. But you see, towards the end of LDC, my father died. And, the firm was there really in that time to shape me and hold me. He said, first of all, don't worry, we'll give you a job. Don't worry. We'll take care. We got you. And then, when bosses kind of ask you, are you okay? The weekend, a man throws you a 20K on top of your salary, and he can also occasionally call you and say, what are you doing today? Come, let's have a drink. That means I've saved my money and I'm high. So I felt terribly, terribly indebted to them. So for about a year, I had to mull over this decision, see how to package it well. And eventually, when I came down to communicate, I made sure I did it right. I characteristic of the time. I wrote a resignation letter, put one on everyone's table, and I gave good notice. I didn't run, and I even worked, I think, an extra month after that, just make sure that my transition was smooth. And also, I made sure I didn't take a single file. No, I would not. Whoever start. And so I had in our discussions with Ruth, what do we want to be? So first of all, I think let's commit. There are many things we've learned from our bosses. What are those things we can continue? So, well, we have to be a good place to work. No toxicity, we'll keep this vision alive. We'll grow people. Very good. That's easy for me. Remember Masano? Teachers, we grow people. Yeah, we'll grow people. For now, though, how do we survive? Now let's hunt. Now I think that's the energy you saw, hunting. And we went to the same clients, who were serving us. They were calling us and asking where you are. Now, by incidentally, Ligoma, probably had failed to mention, was meant to be a tax boutique. Because Ruth had come back from, a little earlier from masters and studied the fancy things like transfer pricing, international taxations. Now, remember, this is 2003, eh? So what is that?
Her course is now relevant.
It has become relevant now. She was ahead of her time. Yes. So, and it's hard to, for people to know that, she's actually a tax lawyer. That was the LLM, International Taxation. She's a member for over many years, Federation of Tax something, and only were not going for these things like forever. But the market saw something else. The banks that were serving, came to us. But we also knew what the banks wanted. The law firm Kalenge Bwanika had largely been handling litigation, like I said, but largely handling creditor enforcement for defending banks and enforcement processes. And let me tell you, those guys were good. Some of your cases you quote every day, Nomi detergents, Uganda poly bags. They were handling those and working with them. And some of those cases, like Uganda poly bags, where is involved and others. I mean, you had a story to tell at the end of the day at the drinking table with friends. You are doing serious things. Westmont, UCB,
yes,
at the forefront of all those. So I saw a niche. The banks were really hurting about these enforcement processes. They were costly. They had tried to use the audit firms. Those were too costly. They had tried to use the bailiffs. Now that was extra costly, and I thought we could, plug in. We know the law, the numbers. We have accountants in offices, so we can see how to do this. And when I first moted this, this with the guys first couldn't believe. I said, "You sure?" I said, "You try us." And well, I remember handling a small, tiny case of 9 million shillings. 9. I wasn't appointed receiver, but the understanding was somebody has been appointed, I would be the one to do the work. And we did 100% recovery, 100%, because of different approach. A different approach. We not only, it was a judgment, recovery, receivership under the CPR, so it wasn't the very structured sort of thing you have. But we recovered the money, we recovered costs, we got our fees, The man, and because we had done it so well, the man didn't even want us to go. And so then we had a CV for me, one to just show to my bosses, look, this is what we can do. He says, oh, this is good, but they feared to get that business. But at Legomark, I could do it. And we did it well. and one another. And then it was almost like magic. Everyone I was talking about Ligomac, these boys who are doing, this boy and girl who are doing this this recovery in a different way. And so from, the sizes now, ticket sizes start getting bigger and bigger. Now, I had joined, remember, I trained first of all at KBK to be a litigator.
Yes.
And also joining Ligomac, I was meant to be the litigator.
Yes.
But now I was also doing the insolvency work, and now they're suing me.
You became a client.
So now I have to become a client, and who had to be my lawyer? So
Ruth.
she didn't want to do this, but what can we do? And look, she got better and better.
Yes.
So this is how, the story of Ligomac really is, and how we get, this ball rolling. So there were, like I said, there were phases. We had this dream being a tax boutique, didn't work. We're sending out
international
to
pricing.
Survive.
You had this international
and then we have
transfer pricing.
Transfer pricing. And then when things come to litigate, I will handle them. Oops, it turned out different. So that is it. The phases, the growth. We sat down and looked back at some point. Who are we? What do the clients? Why do clients come to us? Our specific supposed understanding of finance, and then we had to say, do we really actually understand finance? He said, well, we are lacking. Okay. Then it seems we have to invest in that. And then we get into that phase of investing now in our skills. And so we started paying people the SCCA, masters in financial law, and this and that. So, and that was all deliberate. Growing people. Now you also grow people, you pay, then they go. So should we bind them? No. Like, let's stay, talk to our mission. It's okay for someone to go. He's our ambassador after all. And so they go. You took some, they are there. They call us. You ask them. They are happy. Yeah. But the thing is, they're here listening. But we were deliberate in doing some of these things. So it's unsurprising that they are where they are in great firms like yours. I think we have about 2-3 people like in PwC, like really. So you've ended up here doing well in varied institutions. Some are running their law offices, and then you put in a bid, they beat you, but so excuse me, I learned from you. That's our story.
Okay.
That's our story.
Okay, if you're just joining us, we are listening to the wonderful story of Ligomac. We've had the wonderful story of he was a Rasta man. And that's why I saw he was really enjoying the song Nobody Can Stop Reggae. Okay, so maybe let me just ask this question as well. So every farm grows or claims growth. But there's also, I think you've touched on this, so maybe we could just touch on it very briefly. There's how at the start, I think you've touched on it, but if you could just how you built a brand, this brand, because you see, Ligomac it grew beyond you and Ruth. And at the beginning, it really was you and Ruth. And I remember at the time, very many conversations with you and Ruth at the time. Even you were very visionary at the time, I recall, saying how law firms grow, what happens with the law firms. But then it grew. You got on many partners, you've grown. So, and right now, people talk about Ligomac. Beyond just you and Ruth, they talk about Ligomac. So how do you turn a business into an institution? Maybe before we get into the insolvency conversation, but just very briefly.
I think we just have to understand that businesses, like human beings, like trees, other objects, you have phases of growth. So you probably have no clear vision of what it's like 10, 15 years ago and so on, 15 years ahead. There is the part you want to say you survived the year. And you could, once you're at that phase, your mode is one of, you're in the mode of survival. How do I keep alive? And so you'll probably operate in the area of informalities and so on. For example, when we started, we're eating what we killed. That was it. So no formal salary structure and so on. And then the clientele grew, the cash flows grew, and we were now at a point we could say, I think let's have a fixed salary. It's good for us for tax purposes. Let's actually recruit and have people now on permanent basis. And so there was that, phase of growth along the way. And then, then it became, people started stepping on each other's toes, and you said, now wait, it's not working. I think the time to formalize has come. So how do we formalize? So we have clear departments. You're handling that. You're handling that. Before that, anyone could have, because you're handling projects. Give me that. Who is the case? This file has come. Are you handling it? Yes, no, I have it. Okay, now I have extra time. I'll handle that. That sort of thing. But now you're very clear. You'll have a insolvency. You'll do all the litigation. You'll do the tax. You'll do, and so the structure. In fact, now you're going to work extra hard to ensure that your service line grows in its clientele and its revenues. So then you're given targets and things like that. And just as well as you grow, even your own people start growing. The one who you are sending to the chief magistrate's court, suddenly says, but excuse me, I can go to the high court.
To the court of appeal.
Yeah. I want to handle that appeal. And so you have to do that. So there is that. It's just time. It's just understand. It's more like like eating, before you eat solids, you first take milk. So also manage organic growth. Manage your own expectations. And just go. That's why I know the figure you were talking about of how much I need. It was already about 3.2.
Yes.
That's what we needed. 3.2 million. I've paid salary. I've paid rent. I've paid office things. And then I can now see what to do about next month. So the target grows bigger, more and more. So yeah. But coming now to the brand. Brand now demands a degree of consistency for who you are. So one, identify the client's needs. What are the needs? What are you serving? What's the need? Where's the gap? And then create your value proposition. We were working under the sort of mantra saying, how do we make it cheaper? Because the client, what the client was complaining about was high fees. So how do we make it cheaper? And then your words, remember, turnaround time, this is taking too long. The case has been in the courts for too long. So how do you make it faster? And how do you make it better? Better being the experience for the client. And so the value proposition had to speak to those three. And then we set out to demonstrate that value. So how did we do that? You had to work closely with the client because he needs to see it. So you don't get the file and disappear. So constant reporting, be in the guy's face, and have a chat, some feedback every day. As soon as the guy calls, jump, because that's your money. That's value. That's the value. He wants to know you're there. If there's any difficulty about it, find the solution. And that's why I think one of the challenges people, if you are able to diagnose the need accurately, then find the solution. That between that is where the value is. Now, in our case, working with insolvency, it was also based on the experiences I'd seen. I thought, everyone in all the enforcements is not talking to the data. That is what I saw. The data, first of all, is going through a very traumatic experience. What is he going to do? His response is going to fight and give it his all. But how about if we worked together? Because he knows his obligation. Whatever he may say, I didn't sign, I didn't take, he knows he took. So the problem won't go away. Let's work together. What do we do? And so on. And so in time we notice.
So the bank doesn't exist. The foreign company doesn't exist.
You know. So we our first cases were generally successful because we employed a lot of empathy. Sit down with the guy, counsel him, tell him, you talk to your lawyer, and fine. The lawyer says other things, fine. But we're here. We're going to help you. And also the lawyer kind of understands, you're not really the ordinary guy. You are not tussling it out. It's okay. You want an injunction? Fine. Have it. And I remember when I first, told the bank about this, I said, excuse me? Yes. Why are we fighting it? He's going to get it anyway. But let's have a condition. Let him pay the installments in the meantime.
Yes.
And when the Justice Kiriawire had that, it's like, yeah, by the way, what's the problem? I can give you the injunction, you pay. Now, of course, this guy didn't have the money. So, and you see now the bubble bursts. So, pay the money. What is the issue? Otherwise, let it go. So what does he do? He comes back to the negotiating table. Now let's first leave the other issue, And that was it. At the end of the day, you find your buyer or I don't know, liquidate an asset. I have not impeded your right in any way. And that was it. It was just working. And the banks were thinking, how are you doing this? I said, but it's really the attitude. If this guy has a good argument, I'm going to come to you and tell you, wait a minute, give him some time. You first convince me. If it works, I'll go and tell the guys the bank. So that was it. It wasn't even anything legal. It was just a solution. Now, down the road is where you have these other things like business rescue. If the guy says, look, I really don't know what to do. And you say, but this business is viable. That was now whole discussion. That's when now we started increasing on our value proposition. Now, like I mentioned later, is that when things work started becoming a bit complicated, the values have gone up, tickets are up, and you have to now manage these, and you have to keep the books proper.
You're selling a whole petrol station chain.
You're dealing with a whole petrol station chain, and at points of incompetence came in. I said, my friend, we need to up our game. And that is
you have
when
been promoted to your level of incompetence.
Incompetence now, we needed to up it. So, and then what I did, we started looking around now. So courses on insolvency, where do we study these things? And you will not believe it. There was no visible course of insolvency available. So do I do an MBA? But it's not speaking to what I really want to do. Now, insolvency really takes center stage after the banking crisis of 2007, 2008.
Was the Greenland, ICB?
That I don't know how
that's
those are. That's 99. But these Lehman Brothers and so on, at a global stage.
Yes.
That's when it becomes, takes a
global practice area.
Yes, because, and they were looking at it from a cross-border issue. So that's why it took center stage. I said, now, my friend, we need to have a coordinated, kind of working system and so on. And that's when, everyone's, the international community starts thinking, oh my goodness, we need to actually even identify insolvency courses that have to be done. And so around that was maybe 2010, 11, that's when I signed up for Insol, the biggest body of insolvency practitioners and professionals. Had been in existence since 1980, but it had never designed a single course. It was just getting guys together. And even at that point, my understanding of them was that it was a very accounting, it was accounts based and for accountants. But now, because of 2007, 2008, they needed to change outlook and grow. So they came up with a course, a global insolvency course, got 12 universities from across the world to come out with a single curriculum. And so you ended up studying global systems, global insolvency systems. I enrolled for that. Now, before that, I was looking for something to do. So I started joined IBA insolvency section, and I hung around with those big bar association. Yes, and at that time, I remember, my first meeting in New York, and I'm listening to these guys talk about all the interventions, they had to make. There was a receiver for Lehman Brothers, an administrator for Lehman Brothers, was the secretary of the U.S. Treasury, and recounting how things had turned belly up overnight and what everyone needed to do. It was a matter of crisis, what everyone needed to do. And I'm just thinking, wait a minute, this sounds familiar.
This is what I do always.
It's yeah. And I remember I was in that room with a Nigerian guy we didn't talk much, but with the two black guys, and everyone was a white man in there, women, and they were talking about something. I said, isn't this what Kasozi did when he was in Bank of Uganda? William Kasozi, when he was in Bank of Uganda, and the going down of Greenland Bank and so on. These guys, and they're copying us. And I half wanted to say, but do you know that this thing has happened in Uganda before? But I didn't have the confidence to. These guys, like I said, were rich, both in money and in experience. I just didn't feel like I could measure up. So I kept going, but I kept asking, guys, why do I study these things? Until, I interfaced with the Insol, and that's how I've never gone back to IBA. Insol sorted me out. I can tell you about the insolvency systems of Brazil, of Canada, because I had to do an exam in each of those. I had to, the US, the UK, New Zealand, global insolvency systems, just to understand how each of those systems work. The principle about all the things is, how do you get creditors to get together and have a common position to save a company? Because it's got to be a collaborative network if you're going to save this. It's got to work together. The secured lenders and their rights shouldn't be compromised. The expectations from the borrowing and defaulting companies and so on. So now that was us filling that gap for us to now serve the client better. Now let me tell you something, and this is some of these things you just shake your head. One of the meetings I attended, conferences I attended, should be around 2012, was in Helsinki.
And where is Helsinki?
Helsinki is in Finland.
In Finland.
Finland, very far from Uganda.
Some people think that Helsinki is
Japan.
Some hell somewhere.
No,
Helsinki.
Helsinki is from a Netflix program about stealing.
So, I went for this meeting, and they were talking about the fall of IBM.
That's the computer company.
No. The BlackBerry.
Oh, BlackBerry.
Yeah, the insolvency of BlackBerry. And I sat in that meeting and listened in on this. The next session was about the insolvency restructuring of docks and logistics. I was kind of taken up by the BlackBerry story, but I was thinking, what the heck? I said, do you know how many rights are in a phone? IP and so on, and then they talked about Notel. And I remember, choosing to leave Helsinki fairly early. These things will never come to us. So imagine, Ellison, 8 years later, the courts are calling us and saying, come and handle UTL. I had to go and look for that folder. With that information, this is, I would have killed somebody if I hadn't found it. So it was still, lying somewhere, and all that information. With a little CD. By 2010, there were not many computers with CDs. So I had to find a way of getting this information and reading and what to do and experiences from elsewhere. And again, remember, IBM was a global, global network, and so all these entities and jurisdictions, how they had handled all this. And then I went and looked at Notel, which was a bit earlier. I said, whoa, okay. And that's how we navigated UTL with all its challenges.
No, we still have it.
Yes, we still have it, but it's, I think we're in a better place. Let me tell you, that one was a leaking basket.
I remember representing many creditors.
Yeah. So the other that we did was to document, as we formalized, we ended up then documenting our internal processes. So create policies and so on. And so we had to get a team in to just explain. So what happens when you receive an instruction? Because all the things were in our heads somewhere, but not written. So
you had to put the farm policies on paper.
So it was a very boring exercise because, who doesn't know things here? But in all truth, there had been some leaks somewhere. So you had to go through this. And I remember I was very, very angry because I had to how can I tell you what to do when you receive a WSD? With Plint, you have 15 days to file a defense. So cut the time in half. Because talk to the client and say, so what happens when the client has given it given it to you 2 days before? Leave whatever you're doing
and answer the complaint.
But for simple things like that, we had to sit with a team of people and explain them. And then we got to learn, wait a minute, they have to be tested. So they ask for this file and let's look at this file. Someone resigned. Yeah. Did you say you do executive interviews? We talked to them. So okay, where are the minutes? I talked to the guy. I swear. We then had to create all these template questions, and then some inspectors had to come in and look at this, and as a result, I think we're probably the only ISO certified law firm in the country because our systems have been tested. But where was the origin? Because we're all beginning to step on each other's. But I was handling that, but you are not there. So okay. That's you. What are the standard systems, departmental policies, So we've had to update those regularly because one inspector will come and say, I want to look at all your policies and then I want to see if you're following the procurement. So how can you it's a law firm with procurement policy? But it's necessary to have it. And so that's how
I have a cow, I supply the milk.
Invoices and so on. Now that's where you start seeing us becoming a bit irrelevant, because had we held that down, you kind of stop the growth. So we also have to adapt and say, okay, so who's going to handle the procurement? It's not my friend anymore, some guy I know. No. We have to go through clear processes. Someone chooses the best price, best quality, and best credit terms. I said, okay, sit, you engage, and you hand that over. Now, slowly by slowly, as the business leaders, then we became sort of more strategic in our thinking, and I keep telling these people in the office that, of course, you, Ellison, there was a time I walked in my registry and could tell in a file, that file. Now, I kid you not, I can't find anything in my registry. If the clerk does not come, records officer, I am cooked. So now I have to make up my mind. Is it important for me to know every file? Must I have access to every one of those files? So your mindset, your growth mindset has got to inform you in what you want to do. So you could hold on to it too tight because you want to be careful and meticulous and so on. But that means you fail to identify the right person to fill the shoes there as you grow. And then you impede your own growth.
The growth mindset.
So yes, recruiting people, growing up people being stolen. Should we be angry or not? No, we should actually let them. Let's go, let them go, and it's okay. It's okay. We'll grow other people, and it's worked.
Yeah.
It's worked. We bless them. Bless you. Go enjoy yourself. Yeah, our hearts are pure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're just joining us on Judicial Service Conversations, we're having a fantastic conversation with Mr. Kabito Karamaji. And what you've just heard has reminded me of the movie American Gangster. I think Denzel Washington was in this movie, for those who know, and there's a point at which he was of course not doing noble legal work like us. He was selling drugs, but he said he offers. But I know why I remembered it, because we've moved from the Rastafarian to the institution builder. And so when I'm thinking American Gangster, there's a point where I think Denzel Washington is asked what the trick is, and he says, we sell a product better than the market at a price cheaper than the market. And I think this is the idea that we've gotten. Now, we have on the Parliament of the lawyers, not the Parliament of the bar, because bars have their parliaments, I'm told. My sister and colleague, Mercy Chemutai Makabai. Mercy, you may or may not know her. Mercy is also an insolvency practitioner, I believe. Registered as if somehow, or registering, in the process of becoming an insolvency practitioner. But she's a corporate commercial lawyer. She's really deeply entrenched in Uganda's corporate world today. And I'll hand over to Mercy to start firing you the next set of questions. Over to you, Mercy Makabai Chemutai, the learned Mercy Makabai Chemutai.
Thank you, Edison. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Kapitsa, for a very interesting introduction. I think the way you introduced your story aligns with a lot of younger lawyers. You think you have a plan, you get out of law school, you think you have a plan, and then you wake up one day and that plan is out of the way and you're just working with what you have. But it's important to, even while you're working with what you have, kind of remain with that vision. And that takes me to that question of choosing a partner. I think in your circumstance, what happened was you met Ruth at this law firm, you were able to see her abilities, and then somehow she begins this law firm and people are flirting with you and pitching, and you find yourself in this comfortable to work with Ruth. Not too many people have that experience. So in your opinion, what would be the 5, or maybe what would you think are the most important things that a person who is thinking of opening a law firm with a couple of people should consider before they go into that 20-year journey, for instance? Because the beginning includes like a 5-year journey, but you wake up and it's 20 years down the road. What do you think they should consider at the beginning for partners?
I think the first part is to know yourself. The first part is to know yourself. To know yourself, and I don't want to say that I went through these processes deliberately. When I look back, I had to, I kind of committed, but I subconsciously went through this. If I had done so, I'm sure I would have come to the, more deliberately. I think I could have come to some more interesting findings. But it is what it is. But, one, know yourself. Who are you? What are your cause? What are your values? You as a person. What's your personality? You. Who are you? That's a very difficult question to ask, I think, for people today, because I noticed that people are having real challenges introspecting. Just say, who are you? Everyone just wants to create a certain facade. I'm good. I mean, even your negatives are part of you. Your flaws are part of your story. Have an open. If you're short-tempered, you know it. If you are half blind, that's it. I mean, so just as well. If you have itchy hands, I mean, you'll concede the things to yourself in private. Now, then find people that align with who. Do those people align with you? And now also study them. Are they also putting up are they also just putting up a show for you? You don't want to work with someone 10 years, 15 years and find out, by the way, this is not the person I always knew. So that is key. Know yourself, know your values, find people that are consistent with you. Now, also, talking about that in terms of personality, then there are also your own abilities. You know, for the old structure of a law firm, you remember, if you look back, you see there were always two people, so and so and so and so, Jack and Jill advocates. You know, and if you look, and if you look very, very carefully, one was court going, and the other one was, the solicitor side. Yeah, well, it's a solicitor type. He's a, but exactly, had a barrister and a solicitor. But I ask that people, so look at things differently. Our capabilities are now broadly, divided in what I say are three terms. Right? One is the hunter. No relation to Hunter and Greg. Just the hunter. The hunter is the one who goes and has the business. Okay? Then, hunter or finder. Okay? Finder. Then you have the minder. Your minder is the guy who knows how to manage situations and manage people internally. Then there's the grinder. The grinder.
The hunter, the minder, the grinder.
Hunter, finder, stock finder, minder, grinder. Now, whether you've decided to be a court-going law firm or serving, the capabilities that you need to have, are essentially those three. Now, we have people that are blessed with all of them, but, one tends to shine more than the other. The finder is probably one who doesn't like to work. He can't draft a letter. He's just boring. But he's got a warm personality. He's out there, He'll call up anyone because he's at the golf club, he's drinking. He has the networks. He finds the business. He has a nose for it. Your business has to have a finder. Finder. Your minder, because your finder doesn't sit in office, he comes at 3. He's just calling to attend meetings and directing, But your minder is the guy in the office. The office is running properly. He can look at the accounts, There's the books are doing fine. His one will tell you guys, hey, we have no salaries. Coming up. What do we do? That sort of thing. If the salaries are late, he has a way of talking to staff and they trust him. Maybe also issues with clients, you go and mind. Your grinder is probably antisocial, maybe even, I don't know, he's just can't be out there. But he knows the law here, he knows what to do, he knows away with the judges, Now, that, if you have decided to be a grinder alone in your firm, your strategy of growth is going to be a bit shorter. Longer. It's going to take longer. And I want you to maybe give you a minute and think about the lawyers and categorize them. Who is the finder in that firm? Who is the minder? And the grinder. So a grinder who is having a sole practice is probably going to come to prominence after a degree of time, is probably because of who he is. It's going to be a small firm. He handles his cases meticulously. He's knowledgeable. He probably never loses any case. But he's not out there looking. He can't go to be a club. Maybe the clubs he goes to, he just wastes himself. Yeah? But, and they say, you look at that guy, he's a lawyer. Really? Yeah, but don't joke with him. When it is, there you go. So now the finder is, if he's going to run a law firm on his own, he's going to lack depth. He's going to lack depth. He's going to have, people who just have young lawyers, do a plaint. He himself can't look at the plaint very well. So is it a good plaint? Is it? Or file, just file.
They're going to tweet about him.
But But somehow he always has the networks and the business. Just tell him there's this oil and gas deal, we want to do this. And he says, really? Huh, give me 2 hours. And he has it. Because of his very warm personality, maybe even sanguine, but reaches everywhere. Now, those have to work together. But the core values like honesty and what have you, once they don't intersect there, disaster. If you can't have a common vision, common goal, simple things. Should we set up a building? No. For me, I come from my home where where nothing. I must
Keep the money.
Because I'm interested in having so many cows or so much land. Now you can see there's a mismatch there. How do you grow an institution with that sort of mindset? You may be a good finder, good minder, but once he has that mindset, so the common goals for the firm, for the business, must be clear to all. So there is no debate about some of it. And that's where a lot of breakups come from. Simple things like how you treat staff. A man who believes that he must instill fear, or just shout at everyone, no, this stuff, you have to talk to them, you have to blast them. That is how they get sense. But another one believes in motivating people to be better. You can't, so that sort of mix, that's a contradiction, it won't work. Do I answer? You had asked for 5, how many have I given you?
More than enough.
More than enough?
Thank you very much. I just want to take us to, which I know is, I don't want to say is where your bread is buttered, but I would not be too wrong. And you've already given us a very good history of how you arrived at insolvency. It didn't come up as a straight path, but it kind of aligned with what you were doing, and you found yourself having to be excellent at it. I know you also do the litigation. How have those two paths continued to work together and allowed you to be a thriving lawyer? But also, what do you think is the advantage of specialization for the people who are in the space?
Yeah. Let me start with your last question. In a situation where you have so many lawyers coming out, you're going to have to stand out somehow. So that is where specialization comes in. You're going to have to choose a certain field, become the expert at it, and somehow propagate its growth until you're known for it. There's no other way around it. Now, about my litigation experience, the cases I have litigated are around the things I do. Insolvency, and insolvency is really a more specialized, sense of corporate practice, of company law. It's just more specialized. That's all. So the litigation about my company law practice and perhaps my public litigation, the infrastructure and these others came, and people just come to you because they have believed in you, because of what you have been doing daily, the record you have established for yourself. And so when some of these infrastructure projects started coming up, cases, one particular case, I remember the client said, "We know you don't know. We know, but we're going to teach you. The reason we've come to you is because we don't trust anyone else to do this the way you do. Because the opponent you are facing is a bit shady. They may have compromised all those." And so that gave us a chance to grow this, brought our litigation skills to the table. And we actually did a very good job. The client was very, very happy. The country should have been happy too. It was a public thing. Yeah. So I would say that the litigation that I've employed is complementary. It's because it's the same act, the same rules, around that space. And what I have done elsewhere is because either there was something compelling about it, and particularly with the infrastructure space, and public, what I call public interest, maybe. For some of these cases, like Martin Insolvency, letters with Ubra. Now those affect me a bit differently, because that is plain injustice. Someone is just playing around almost with your head. I mean, are you kidding me? The law says you have to have these qualifications. Do you have them or not? And then you give me all these stories, and you want to fire somebody who is more competent. And so we had to stand up in that gap, sort of like the case of Ojangoli as well. Someone has unearthed a fraud, and somehow she's on being locked up.
Being arrested.
Really? So those kind of cases fire me differently. It's not supposed to be being managed. Just let's first sort out this problem here, this irregularity. Yeah.
Okay, if you're just joining us, welcome again to the Judicial Service Conversations. I think we're having a fantastic conversation with Mr. Kabito Karamaji. The next person who will ask questions is Alfred. When you talked about finder, minder, and grinder, I usually tell this story. There is an organization called the Dear Young Lawyers series. Alfred here is the Secretary General of Young Lawyers, actually of the East African Law Society. He's the Deputy Secretary General of the East African Law Society in charge of young lawyers.
Oh.
But he has also established a thing called the New Young Lawyers.
New Young Lawyers.
Dear New Young Lawyers.
Dear New Young Lawyers.
So he talks and mentors these new young lawyers.
Right.
Now, he formed it with Joy, who is sitting on my left. Now,
nice.
Joy and Alfred, when they formed it, they didn't quite think of finders, minders, and grinders, but they both formed it, so they need to establish leadership.
Yes.
So Alfred became the founder, and Joy became the chief executive. So I think they are both finding, minding, and grinding. But over to you, Al, to...
Yeah, thank you, Alisti. But with your knowledge, now we are going to separate. One is going to become a minder, and another one will be a hand at least. And we are glad to be having you tonight. When they talk about your name, we just remember Insolvency. And when I remember Insolvency, it makes me out my time at LDC. We did what they call an emergency paper that year. When emergency paper happened is when the first paper leaked, and then the next one was an emergency paper. So in that emergency paper, the second question was on Insolvency, and the remedy was corporate registry. But I remember that during that paper, I left the exam. I was about to cry because I was like, I'm about to come back to LDC. I didn't get the right remedy. What stopped me from crying? Well, my colleague telling him, but Alfred, if you cry, what will what do? Because for these things. I'm like, people, I may come back. I was scared. And that takes me to this one question from your angle. When a business is collapsing, what is that first thing you look for to determine the remedy you're going to use to rescue that business? Like, how do you get to separate from a corporate rescue, from a liquidation? How do you get to find the right remedy for that business which is collapsing? Thank you.
Yeah. What is that thing that you look for? Time. Time. The answer to that question depends on how severe the crisis is. So the question you ask yourself at that point is, how bad is it? How much time do I have? How much time do I have? Now, businesses, let me just probably explain this. It's very interesting. Businesses grow like people. They start, they grow, and peak. It may peak very high, it may peak at a low, but at some point it's going to peak. Every good business, every business you imagine at some point peaks and starts to decline. Now, imagine the X and Y axis. So it peaks and then it starts declining. That decline is very slow. It can be very quick. For example, the war now in Iraq, they blow your ship with goods, and it's the only ship you have, that's a very fast decline, down. But generally on the businesses, those, kind of decline slowly. And there are things that cause it. Low, reduced profits, reduced cash flows. The business leaders are not paying attention to these things. And you find excuses. But we're okay. We reported a loss, but it's okay. We're still in business. But the business is declining slowly. Now, as it gets closer to that, is that the y-axis, the x-axis? The last, Yes. Once it crosses that line, that's insolvent. It's hard. The closer it gets to that line, the more severe the crisis it is in. And that means intervention becomes more drastic. But once it crosses the line, that one you sing kumbaya. My Lord, kumbaya. Yes. There's nothing to do unless there's, I don't know, like UTL in this case had crossed that line. And if it wasn't for government intervention, would not have gotten anywhere. But that is just to explain what that is. But generally, the closer you are, it's just think of a toothache. Yeah? First it gives you some time, but there's a day it will hammer you in the night, and you're then going yourself. Yes. So that's how the business is. So in our the interventions, you have to think of how much time do I have? Do I have a day? Ellison, you must remember a story of your former boss, Juma Kisame. He tells this story quite often. When he got a job in Tanzania, and he settled in maybe week 1. So maybe things are not good, probably came up with some plan. And then week 2 he decided to go and check on his supervisor, the central government, central bank. And he says, hey, you've come. Now your bank, unfortunately, we're going to close it. And this here is the notice which we're going to publish tomorrow. So you think of that, that's an immediate crisis. What do you do? And he did the right thing, was now to plead. Say, hey, I didn't know things were this severe with you two. Give me time. And I come up with a turnaround plan. So in other words, the immediate intervention he made was to manage a key stakeholder called the central bank and plead for time. My preliminary findings are these, but if you allow me to go back and fine-tune this. I said, oh, well. And that's how the notice was. But others, you can imagine if he had seen that notice the next day. The crisis is worse because now you have a run on the bank. They have crossed the line. So he saved it just at the at the tip of the line. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. Now, just one more question from my hand. Now, looking at the creditors, the usually gives them quite bigger power with the creditors, and mostly for them at that point, they only want to get their money and go away. And yet, for that, your point, you want to rescue the business, or you want to balance those interests. So, you initially mentioned how you have to get creditors to get together and have an objective to rescue the company. But these are the creditors who want, for them, they're not minding about the company. They want, sorry, just mute a bit. For them, they want their money and they go away. So, how do you balance winning or enforcing rights of the creditors and also preserving the business at the same time?
Yeah, that's a good question. Now, let's first understand. A business is established for the purpose of what? Making profit. Yes. Generating cash flows. If it's not able to do that and continues in its operations, it means it is leeching off somebody. It's a parasite in the economy. And if it continues like that, taking if it is a shareholder who is funding it, The shareholders are funding it, so there shouldn't be a problem, right? But if, for example, they have a bank loan and they're not paying, if they are taking credit from suppliers and taking their time to pay, in the result, they are also affecting those businesses. That becomes that company is in effect living off the sweat of others. All right?
Yes.
Now, what is also going to happen is that as it accumulates this credit, it starts cannibalizing its own value. How? Because its debt goes up, as its capital base, working capital, its asset all stay. So at some point they could, right? So however nice the business might look and it's not able to generate cash flows, not able to generate profits, and it cannot be those losses cannot be properly underwritten by the shareholders. That is not a good player. It has to go. It has to go. However promising and flowery and so on. So the underlying question to ask yourself is, can you generate money? That is the blood of the business. You're not able, you're out. Now, in most cases, if you want to turn around, the win of how do you win is dependent on that ability to generate cash flows. And this is key, for the secured lender to believe in you. Secured lender, and to a certain degree, the supply creditors. Because you see, if you are not paying me, why should I be giving you any more credit? I'm going to ask you to pay in cash, or don't even talk to me. Isn't it? By that, I want my money. That it still means I want my money. Now, if you go to another supplier, you are just digging another hole. Okay? But if you have if you are able to come around with a proper turnaround plan, and you talk to your secured lender, that secured lender is a powerful person here, and he is able to buy into it, it is likely that the others are also likely to fall in line. Now, what I have seen here...
Secured lender is like the guy who can have your house.
Yes.
Yes, you have a mortgage with him or...
Because you see, secured lenders, especially the financial institutions, are also using other people's money. Your money.
Yes.
We all have bank accounts, right?
Yes.
So it's our money that is being there. Now, if you're out there, say, telling the banks, please don't recover the money, but then you go to the ATM after to get your money, you're really killing yourself.
Yes.
You're shooting yourself in the foot. Because that is what this game of play is all about. So ultimately, if you are able to come up with a good turnaround plan and your bankers can support you, you should be okay. Now, how do you get your bankers to support you? Let me tell you, it's what you do every day. It's who you are and what you become to be. Think of someone like Mandela. If Mandela had any problem with any of his businesses, okay, first of all, let's start about Mandela. What do we know about him? Javas. Good quality food.
Yes.
A lots of business. But how about the man's ethos himself?
Yes.
He's
Very honest.
very honest.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Credible,
Yes.
Credible.
Yes.
He comes to you and says, I'll pay you. You know you'll be paid. So he gets a bit of a hiccup. And he comes and says, give me some time to sort it out. Are you going to, if you're at a bank, So why does he have that? Does he get that sort of credit? It's because of what he does every day. He didn't become honest 2 minutes ago. It's because of a certain track record that he has been able to build that people can say, no. Again, let me just play another scenario of a crisis and what your brand can do as a crisis. Mandela still, not too long ago, someone said there was a dead rat in his what?
Yeah.
In his in Javas.
In Javas. But what happened?
It died natural death.
Do you know that the sales of milkshake went up?
The customers came to
The
his defense.
customers are saying no,
It can't be.
not
That's
true.
blackmail.
But if it was your Kalito thing and it passes it out. So it just speaks to the importance of having
Brand.
the brand. What you do every day. Start with you. You align yourself with your brand and how you communicate to the key stakeholders. Not everyone must agree with you. Your key stakeholders are people who come to me. Does Mandela maybe, I don't know, he probably does, but does he pretty much care about for border people? You can say whatever you want. But for you, he cares that you're okay. I mean, he's a fair man, I have no doubt. But if you ask him in the general things, he's probably likely to greet you better because you are probably a customer. You know what I mean? So the consistency of what you're doing, you're talking to your, you have identified your key stakeholders and you're communicating a consistent message about who you are. And so much so that if they say, this man can't do something, you're like, hell no. It's but you don't know. By that, I don't even want to know.
Okay, if you're just joining us, welcome to the Judicial Service Conversations. I think maybe you could mute. Okay, if you're just joining us, welcome to the Judicial Service Conversations. We're with Mr. Kabito Karamaji and we are learning and listening. And I've just, when you talk about Mandela, someone here sent me a quote about Jay-Z. That he said he's not a businessman. He's a businessman. So for him, he's a business. So the people should know that he's a business. Now, I'll hand over now to the CEO of the Dear Young Lawyers series. Now I think she's the grinder or the minder or the finder. I don't know which one she is. But Joy Imbabazi. Joy, Mr. Kabito, is a lawyer, and she has experience actually in media, and she's also into legal work and communication. But just before she comes in, when you talked about consistency, I really thought about the Judicial Service Conversations. Over to you, Joy. Let me stop saying things.
When you say over to me, that statement, say on radio, they say over to you, gentlemen, in the control room or on TV. Thank you very much for listening in to the Judicial Service Conversations tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We are running and still going, talking about bad business, insolvency, and the making of a legal empire. And I believe that it's not just us in studio that are benefiting. Mr. Kabito is doing us very, very good. He started off by telling us his journey, how he started, you know, the pitfalls and the decision making and having to resign and, you know, what it took and all that kind of stuff. And because I deal with young lawyers and I am a young lawyer myself in terms of practice, you know. So we'll come back to that and we'll be asking you we'll be asking you about some advice for the young lawyers, but that's going to be at the end of it. I just have one question for you, and then there's a lot of engagement. So many people are listening in, and there's quite a lot of questions. So I'll be asking you one question, and then we'll go into the listeners, the audience. So if you're listening to me right now and you have a question that you would like us or you'd like to pose to Mr. Kabito, please do put it there. Clarity is very, very key. Okay, so make sure it's clear and simple, and then we pray that we'll have the time to do that, to answer all your questions. But Mr. Kabito, in Uganda today, you've talked about quite a lot and even building a business. And from your history, you said there's you have the experience of building something and falling and picking up, you know, from the ashes and all that kind of stuff. So would like to know what you think really decides whether a company survives. You know, would you say from your experience, is it the courts, is it the creditors, is it the lawyers? Exactly what makes this thing work? Over to you. Thank you.
Undoubtedly, it is that is the secured lender, like I mentioned earlier. But only if you have a viable plan, or if that secured lender trusts you. trusts you in some sort of way to come up with something that can salvage that situation. But I have noticed something in this country. But I answer that in the context of a court-protected turnaround proposal that you have to make, administration or something. Now, what I've also seen, and it's really out of ignorance, there are a lot of unsecured lenders in a creditors meeting voting for the continuation of the voting against the either the liquidation or voting to support a company that doesn't even have a proposal. It's simple promise that we are going to find a way to pay you, that sort of thing. And they say, okay, because if you don't vote us, then the company won't be there. So then there is this hope that if you keep alive, then you'll pay us. That's like snake charm, snake oil. You see, snake oil advice, really. Because like I said, if that company continues and it continues in existence or continue operating, attracting more debt, you're compromising value further, you're cannibalizing the business. Okay? So those that and I totally understand. If you're an unsecured lender and your old savings are in there, what do? You're gonna have to put up and hope for something, but it doesn't work. So I've seen some of those cases come up, and also, unfortunately, to be honest, the quality of understanding of insolvency and handling of distress situations is still very, very low. I've seen, some administrators, some lawyers, some accountants, advise their clients as much and even, push for this, but this can't work. In one particular case, even a judge ordered that the companies keep open. I said, but it's making losses. Not even with me, that's the history, and I'm just showing it to you. Says, no, you keep it running. But, in the Emerald case, if you remember, same case, same scenario. Judges continue running, they keep it open. But how? And so there's the appreciation of these things is still lacking, but the truth of the matter is if you're not creating the cash flows,
So cash flow is king.
Cash is king. Cash is blood. Yeah.
The street they would say period. Cash is king, right?
Cash
If-
is blood.
Cash is blood. If you are not making the money, man, go home. Okay. All right. So onto you, the audience. The first question is coming in from Seguia Enoch, who is a very faithful listener of the JSC, and he's saying, in a nation where laws are forged in the fire of power and capital, can Uganda's young advocates truly master insolvency, or will they remain pawns in the rescue game, where ethics bends to the highest bidder and the official receiver is the ultimate gatekeeper of rebirth or ruin? What if the sharpest legal mind isn't the one who liquidates, but the one who weaponizes reform before collapse? Over to you.
Is Seguia?
Yes.
Seguia, I was once young.
You're still young.
I
You're
was.
part of the young lawyers.
And I think it's important for people to know that we started when this practice, was opened up in the manner that it is today.
I think you're muted.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Seguia, this is for you. The odds were really, starkly against us. People today at least are more knowledgeable. Still, the skill pool is still poor, but man, I have to acknowledge we've made significant advances. And because of the work we're doing, we were seen, and this is for you, Seguia, I was seen as an auctioneer. Yes. And a lot of our approaches, were because the file has been sent to the auctioneers. Well, the auction is legal mark. And that is what people understood. But today, there is no doubt that we are a law firm and that we offer a very bespoke service in the area of business turnaround. Okay? So, Sabia, take heart. Just stay put. We were called all manner of names. Yeah, we were abused by judges who didn't know. But we've, stayed the course and we're here. So have no worry. You become better. Invest in yourself. Become an authority on the subject better than your competition. And you'll get there. So I am far more hopeful of you, Mr. Seguya, because of what I have been through. So, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Kavito.
Have to meet.
Colleagues, money is coming.
No, there's an old one I had. My trees are growing. Money is coming. My trees are growing.
Exactly. Seguya, I hope you have some trees. Okay, so the next question is coming in from Nuamanya Andy. He says, what reforms would enhance the efficiency of Uganda's official receiver's office in handling SME liquidations without compromising creditor protections? Would you like me to repeat?
Yeah, SMEs. I think, first of all, we have to be more creative about insolvency and its application for SMEs and even the smaller entities. He's talking about the official receiver's office. I would say even more. It's just the legal framework. How can a small company, have to come to a court and or go to an insolvency practitioner and, close or turn around its affairs without having to incur these huge costs? The biggest one of the biggest challenges of solvency is really the fees of professionals in there. And what the rest of the world has done, which I fear to suggest here, is allow for the professionals involved to get a stake in the reformed company. And what that does is that it saves the company from bleeding cash. Cash is king. Once you start paying it out, and you hemorrhage the already struggling company. And so
Become anemic.
exactly. So the regime out there allows for that thing. Now, but I can imagine one day company is going through some of these challenges and he can't pay me, and then I go to a judge and I say, I will do this thing as long as he gives me 20% stake. How will that judge look at me? These are things we have to think about. And insolvency itself is the structure of the law itself is not, the application is almost like a guideline, because it's supposed to allow for some sort of creativity. Not every insolvency situation is the same. And there are going to be very many with different forms of crises. So that is just one of the suggestions. See, how do we allow for that sort of thing, maybe more broadly for us, maybe to take a stake in a company that is distressed. The other thing is is about the capacity of the official receiver's office itself to handle these cases. The number of people, I don't know whether it is adequately staffed. When we're operationalizing the law, I did take up a consultancy with the official receiver's office, and we recruited a few people, gave out a plan. And I want to believe that plan that I drew has since run its course. There is need for, either, other things like smaller courts where these people can go, maybe chief magistrates courts where they can go with a little ease. But there's certainly need for more state investment in the official receiver's office to carry out investigations, because some of the things are, they are being closed to avoid certain liabilities. And so the ability to go through that sort of process is important. You've all heard of Chapter 9. Chapter 11 of the in the US.
Many
What-
of us have heard of Chapter 4. I'm seeing Nicholas Opio.
But there is a Chapter 8 Chapter 8 and Chapter 11 for smaller, for like their equivalent of
Chapter
SMEs.
11 is the bankruptcy in the US.
Yes, bankruptcy protection. But there's also Chapter 8 for smaller thresholds, and I think we need to do some of the things. Maybe they don't have to use all lawyers of certain capacity, cut off certain filing fees and so on, make it easier. Yeah.
Thank you for that. We're chasing time. So the next question came in from Ambrose. He's saying, maybe if I may, of course you may, how best can judges balance commercial interests with ethical obligations when big sums of money are at stake?
That question supposes that they don't. They suppose that doesn't happen. I want to defend the judges again. That I think they do. They balance those interests fairly well. And I know that there are a couple of bad apples, 1, 2, 3, somewhere here and there. That is reflective of our society. So I call on those to be punished, and that's why I stand with you, Ellison, on a stronger JSC, allows for that. And really, the other thing I think people boldly speak up. When I was young and a rebel, I'll tell you what happened, and I think it was you, Ellison. You one day put me to task because there were so many interim orders that were coming out of courts. And when we counted, there were 18 of them. I couldn't proceed. This court would give an interim, then extend it. So I went and talked to the principal judge. Said, but look at this. This is a joke. My law firm has 18 cases from one client. We are not moving. What is this? And he says, 18, you write to me formally. And so I did. Now, unfortunately, the next day, the subject of my complaint were headline news. He had been appointed judge. But the result is that he was struck off the list. So speak up. Speak up. You know them, and please come with evidence. Don't just besmirch good people because you don't agree with what they've done. Here was a real, the list was clear, just mine alone. I don't know if you talk to other law firms how many lists they had. Let's face it, we all knew what was happening. Yeah, but he was struck off. And he had to wait for another, I don't know, is it 4 or 5 years to become judge? So speak up.
In short, colleagues, make research. Don't just come anyhow. Make research. So this is the last question from the audience, and then get advice for young lawyers, and I'll pass the microphone back to Ellison. There's a question which Joel Otai Eminat. I hope I've not murdered the pronunciation. Pardon me. You're saying that the number of companies in Uganda may not be so many. Is it accurate to say that that is in itself a limitation to the opportunities a lawyer has if he chooses to specialize in insolvency? I think he's asking for himself on behalf of 100 of himself and 100 many others.
The answer is no.
Okay.
Why? For me, you're looking at insolvency in the prism of corporate insolvency alone. But there is also personal insolvency, the bankruptcies. So widen the scope. And then the other is that I firmly believe that a good number of cases in court, even probably constituting backlog, are good candidates for insolvency proceedings, either insolvency protection and so on. Because you see, if I have a company that took out a loan, I probably gave third-party mortgages and the company mortgages, and now they are suing. They're coming for me. I go and file one case in the maybe some of these were personal assets, so I have a case in the land division, and then the company itself, I go and file another case in the land division. So we have to find a way of detecting these sorts of people, because you should be telling them, excuse me,
You're broke.
you're broke. You go and get protection, deal with your secured lenders. No, so this is how insolvency proceedings can work, and that's just one way. The other that you can do is advising on turnaround strategies. And lawyers, we have these people, we know them. They come to you asking you what they can do, and you file suits instead of addressing the underlying problem. That is just dealing with the symptom. So these are options that are available. I think there's a lot more that can be done. Yeah. And then also the practice, generally people disappear, and you're the one advising them, I think, disappear. You go and be in Dubai.
Or the village.
Yeah, or go to the village. So
Okay. If you're just joining us, welcome to the Judicial Service Conversations. We are winding up. We have been told that we need to be out of here by 9 p.m. I think we had a number of other questions, but Joy wanted us to give advice to young lawyers, and maybe we shall ask you at this point to give us your parting shots. For those who have just joined us, we are happy to inform you, as we usually do, that you are late. and we usually have a question about what advice you'd give to young lawyers. We also have usually a question about mission-based judges. Mission-based judges is about Article 142.2 of the Constitution, and the argument that if the judiciary is overwhelmed, they should call upon the bar. You'll take all those as you want, but I think the main thing we want to hear from you right now is, what advice would you give to young practitioners? What closing advice would you give them? And also, it has become a tradition here, and maybe I need to explain the tradition. In the past, when we were expecting an election, we used to sing only one song here at the end of this thing, and the song was Oli Mujawa. But now we have democratized in the spirit of democracy. So a lot of people want to know if you're to leave. And for those who don't know, our guest is a man who really knows his music. As you heard, he had a very good experience previously. So we want to know what books you're reading, what books you could recommend for us, and what advice you can give to young professionals. So what books you're reading, what advice you can give to young professionals, and then what song what song you're playing on replay. What is that song that you have in mind? And then some people asking about the productions, things like My Fair Lady. So I think there are all these questions. Over to you, sir.
Okay. Advice to young lawyers. I think young lawyers, I had Sim Katende give advice that I think I need to re-echo, because I I think I was lucky I discovered that early. One, you're out of law school. You're out of law school and you think you're ready. The truth is that you're not. In the real world here, real, there's a word like real politic. I want to talk about real legalist. Real legalese. You're not. You're going to have to unlearn things and relearn new things. Get a mentor, get a proper mentor, work with him, and come with an open mind to learn. Invest in yourself to grow. Number two, our business is not about money. Everyone thinks about money, Mercedes-Benz, house in, Mercedes-Benz, Subaru. Let me tell you, money chases those that are ready for it. Money chases, comes to those that are ready for it. No one is going to trust you with a case of $100 million if you have not demonstrated some expertise in working with 1 million. So grow. If, be like a tree, to grow. If you grow quickly like grass, you'll be easily cut down. That's just how this works. In terms of areas of practice, I think you'd ask me that, what would I do today if, I wanted to start a farm? There are things. Ugandans are very enterprising people. We're some of the most enterprising people in the world. But somehow we've all stuck ourselves in this skeletal bound, especially us as lawyers. We're stuck in this boundary called Uganda. Let me tell you, the world is ours. It's ready for the taking. If I were to start a law firm, young, already energetic, I would be looking at how to build something in Eastern Congo, Southern Sudan, and maybe Dubai. Why? Dubai would have bombed you. Yeah, but no. Let me tell you why Dubai. Ellison, everyone is buying something from Dubai here. Every businessman has something that he's doing in Dubai. People are buying condos in Dubai, hiding money in Dubai. How are they doing it? They are talking to foreigners. Now, let me tell you about Congo generally. Congo is the big purple. Everyone else is in Congo except Ugandans. Planes are taking off, or little runaways and going to the Western capitals. Somehow we're all scared because of insecurity and so on. But for them, somehow they don't find a problem with the security. How is that possible? But also importantly, there are many rich Congolese there. They come here to buy things, they're buying properties, they are investing. They want to be guided. Same with Southern Sudanese. You partner with there are many Southern Sudanese students here. Work with them and set up something there. That would be the Great Lakes law firm, I could think. So let's think out of there are sleeping countries like Zambia. Slow. Maybe even South Africa, slow. So Ugandans, we have that capacity. We can do it. Instead, we send mechanics, Malayas, and thieves, pickpockets. So, they're the ones who go and steal from out there, and then they give us a bad name. But for a place like Dubai, you have all the incubators there. They want to send money. They want to buy property. You're kidding me. Do something. So that is one of the things I'll think about. This is, as an African, this is our continent. We have a right to go anywhere. And we have the capacity to go there and thrive. So we can. Now, about the books I'm reading, with the books that influenced me, I would want to mention three books. One is called Purpose Incorporated. Incorporated, yes, by a guy called, two people, John Wood and a lady called Amelia McGibbon. What that book did for me is that it made me, I was never being raised by teachers, civil servants who are always suspicious of money. To be honest, I've always had a bit shy relationship with money. So, and I have always wondered, but is it enough to make money? And so that book justified this. It's not about money. We're here to do something much greater than money. Money itself has got to move, circulate. If you get it and hold and you just buy more and more and more, and you're not getting in some sort of production or helping someone else grow, you're actually failing in your purpose. So that book talks about how to find a purpose, incorporate it in the business, and actually thrive. You know? And it's interesting, I think Wood was, if I remember, I think he worked with IBM. He was maybe IBM or which is Nanka's Microsoft. I think it was Microsoft. So he just happened to travel to Nepal and found a school with no desks, no books, kids study. And when he started, availing books and telling other people, he just found himself that he was buying more, getting more loyalty from customers, because I am able to tell you that 10% of my business, of the revenues you're paying, I am allowing with those people to grow. But what is the net result of these things? Your pickpockets, you think they want to be pickpockets? Those who naturally, give them something useful to do. Allow for that to grow. Now that is how, what it speaks to me is how we come around with the Legal Mark Foundation, keeping kids in school and doing the productions. Because think about it, everyone is promoting sports, everyone is promoting underprivileged people. Who promotes the arts? Who promotes theatre? Is the National Theatre? When did you last step at the National Theatre? And where are these guys who can act, who can write plays, and where are the Ngugi wa Thiongos of our time? Where are the John, what was the name, Robert Dide, and so on. So that is the era we're talking about. Now, if those guys can come, because they need to be helped, then that guy can come to you for legal services, and he can talk about you and bring you more. So that is one book. Then the other book I want to talk about is called Too Big to Jail. The Too Big to Jail. Yeah. Too Big to Jail is a rather interesting. I forget the authors. The idea about that book is to expose these banks, Western hypocrisy. I mean, these big banks, I hate to say some of them, might be my client, but HSBC and so on, we're actually, bending the rules and banking, drug money and not making so on. It so happened that the biggest revenues were coming from Mexico and Colombia. And the entire system that is supposed to track that money was ignoring these things. And eventually when there was a blow up, expose, they were fined. What they earned in profits for 2 weeks.
They were too big to jail.
And the chairman became secretary of the exchequer. So I'm thinking, what does this mean? Some of the things we're just being played around with. We can actually, we should be able to own our own systems. If we continue to be small and encumbered, and it starts with us being as creative as we can be. What do we need to do? It's the way Iran has held back.
Yes.
Yeah, so for me, that is what I have to say, guys. I'm not too shy to say, what do we do? They are playing around with us. But also to understand that that's how the world works. They are big boys. Also us were big boys. If I have to give you and you work and I know Ellison wants it, I don't know, I just met you. I'm likely to trust in there. Real world, isn't it? Yes. Unless you put up your very best proposal, I look at it, I say, Ellison, next time. Isn't that how the world works? So that is how it works. So why don't we do the same for our own businesses, African people, African businesses, and so on? Now, the last book I am reading is called A World for Sale. This one I haven't finished. I keep reading and first putting aside. And I just A World for Sale. It's by Javier Blas, I think. Two authors, Javier Blas and Jack something. Now, this book is about how some guys, like the businesses of Greek, have identified and found their way into our world market to get money even from people like you. So they've built these networks and out of trade, supplying fuel, grain. So wherever they are, they can actually get land in Congo, in southern Sudan, to grow grain. So you imagine somebody sits down, he starts. The advantage they have is that they can get some credit. So he has $1 million. He plays around it. There's a war. How do I go around the war? How can I hold back? And so they're doing cereal. They're doing all the manner of things you can't imagine. And so they become so powerful. Their clients are countries, governments. The presidents will call and say, we have no fuel. You please, anything you want. Says, where $60 million, and it's done. Their growth, humble. Why can't I be like that? How come they're in Congo and I'm not? So that informs my thinking. Oh, like, wait a minute. Why am I stuck in Kampala? Why am I not in Zambia? Why can't I think like that? And I want to think that as lawyers, as these numbers we're having, 45 million people, 55, we need to break out of our shells. My advice to young lawyers. I wish I'd known this like 20 years ago. Oh, you imagine the energy I had then.
When you were running
Yeah.
down.
We needed you. That's why.
That's what I needed. Yeah.
Song?
The song. I'm very much in tune with Bob Marley. I feel like let's do it. Get up, stand up. Stand up for our rights. That's the beat in my head. Yeah, because let's stand up for ourselves.
Get up, stand up.
Yeah. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right. Don't give up the fight. Yeah.
If you're just joining us, for sure, for sure, you're late. If I can summarize, our guest began telling us he has read the Bible 3 times. And if I can summarize what he has just said in a Bible verse, it would be, since the days of John the Baptist, the kingdom of God suffers violence, and the violent. And 3 times by the view.
Yeah. So I've done it more.
Yes. So, since the days of John the Baptist, the kingdom of God suffers violence, and the violent take it by force. And what we have been hearing is, go out there, stand up, and take it by force. We have listened to a person, ladies and gentlemen, who has taught us that institutions do not build themselves. They are built by people who choose standards over shortcuts. And he has told us of all the standards they have chosen and the sacrifices they have made to build the businesses they are building. We have been listening to someone who was widely read, who has a deep understanding of things, and who has taught us to find our place. Be a finder, be a minder, be a grinder. But be purpose incorporated, be too big to jail, and do not be for sale. Take over the world, because since the days of John the Baptist, the kingdom of heaven has been suffering violence.
Yes.
And the violent take it
Yeah.
by force. So, parting remarks to all of you, simple. Get up, stand up for your rights. Because as you all know, without any fear of contradiction, nobody can stop reggae. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Okay.